Hello, this is lesson 2, so the week of January 25th, and we'll be just going through a couple of the exercises from the book, which I realize you don't all have yet, but they're on the way, and I'll post the pages for you to practice from, and I hope by next week or the week after everybody will have one of those red books in their hands. But in the meantime, I wanted to just go over review some of the very basic open notes that we worked from last time. The C's, the E's, the G's, they're all part of that C major harmonic series that it's kind of like home base for the horn, because that's our C major scale. And so F concert, obviously, and these C's, E's, G's, they're all sort of in the mid-range. But just to demonstrate for you that horn harmonics, as they go higher, they become much closer together, as with any instrument. But I think with the brass instrument, what sets the horn apart is that it lies so often in the upper third of that harmonic series. So if you've heard people say the horn is the hardest or the most treacherous, it's not the hardest. Every instrument has its challenges, but certainly it does have some, there is some treachery involved there, because there's just a way bigger chance you're going to miss a note in the upper register than you are with an instrument where you just have to put down the right key and you know that that note's going to be there. So we do a lot of just aiming with our air, aiming with our lips, and you can't always see what it is you have to do. So it's just building a muscle memory for every note in that harmonic series, and that's why the beginning of this book spends so much time just on the basics. So C, E, G. So when you get down to the fundamental C, that's the lowest note you'll play on the open F horn. And then as you go higher, you can hear they're getting a little bit closer, more closely spaced. And then as you go higher still, you've almost got a scale there. And then if you want to venture even higher still, then it gets quite crazy up there. So that's why playing the horn can be quite a thrilling experience, because you don't always know what's going to happen up there. Anyway, that's the harmonic series, and we're just going to work on those middle range notes of that harmonic series. So the C's, E's, G's. I think I made a note of, well, yeah, if we start on page 9 and maybe just jump down to number 19, and we'll start on the E. Nice half notes, maybe about 1, 2, 3, 4, and just try and make the beginning clean, try and make the ending clean, and then in the half note rest that you have at the end of your third C, that's when you have to start thinking about preparing your embouchure for the next note, which is the third E. So you're going from 3 E's to 3 C's. So in that half note rest, you have to start thinking about, what am I going to do to prepare my air for the C? What am I going to do to prepare my lips for the C? You do enough of these repeated notes and you will build that muscle memory, but you have to do enough of it so that your lips remember what to do. As soon as they see that note, they jump to that position. So let's just start on number 19 and do a couple of these. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now think C. Back to E. think I want to spend too much more on this page, but you'll find your intervals are going to get a little bit bigger down the line. So number 21, you're going to jump from C up to G and back down. So there's that whole jump of a fifth, and you want to avoid the E on the way up. And just try to focus the air as you're playing through that note. Try and imagine that your air is very streamlined, very centered, and that will bring the sound into focus. You'll have a nice centered sound, and it should feel quite relaxed. So if you've got a lot of like tension in your throat or in your tongue, then your sound will have that tension in it too, and it won't be the kind of note that you feel you could just sustain without any difficulty. You know when you've got the note in the right spot, that sweet spot where you really centered the tone, because that's when it feels like it won't end. And that's a good feeling. So always aim for that feeling of having found the center of every note. Sometimes it's a little bit harder to find, but you will find it if you just keep practicing these. Okay, so the next thing was maybe over the page. This is page 10, and I'll post it. Let's just do some quarter notes. So number 25, some repeated quarters. And for each of those 5 repeated notes, you want the same sound on each one, provided it's a good sound. So aim for a really nice centered attack and centered sound, clean attack, centered sound on every note. 5 notes the same. 1, 2, 3. Prepare your C. Smaller opening, slightly faster air for your G. And down the page you'll be doing a lot more jumping around, and I'll leave that to you to see how that goes. And then we are going to add the D and the F for this week. So you'll have at least the first 5 notes of that C scale. And this is when we introduce the first valve. I don't think I'll have to demonstrate too much here, but if you want to try maybe something like number 37, where you're walking down from E, adding the D, and then to C. And then C, back up to D, and E. So you're filling in the space, and you're gonna find that there's very, very little embouchure change required to go from C to D and D to E. But I want you to get used to the feeling for each one of those notes so that you can almost taste that note. And then F, we're going to add F over on the next page. So on page 12, we'll add the F. F and maybe, and maybe page 13. If you can get as far as page 13 where you'll be walking up the scale. So this is number 57. You can do if you want. I think I might be playing them a tad on the fast side, so if you want to slow it down, that's perfectly fine. Slow it down. So if you're okay with what we just did for this week, I hope that'll be enough for you to practice and not too much. So I don't want you getting bored. If you do get bored, then go ahead, play the whole scale. I think I showed you the fingerings for the whole scale, and I will post the fingering chart as well, which comes at the very beginning of the book. I'll give you a fingering chart. Once you have your C scale, then the sky's the limit. You can play whatever you want. Okay, and I think I'm gonna try and put up an inspirational recording for you for every week. So instead of just spending one lesson on talking about recordings, I want you to hear a new one every week. And I haven't decided what it's going to be for this week, but I'll get something up probably tonight. Okay, see you soon. Have fun.